Next up, we have German Edge Cloud speaking to us about the SIEM with Elastic. So we have the product owner of Cloud, Markus Sedlich.
Good morning, welcome. My name is Markus from German Edge Cloud. I'm product owner, product manager for most of the cloud products we are offering. And today I'm going to talk to you about how we introduced a SIEM solution with Elastic for ourselves that provides the necessary insights for security and at the same time leaves some freedom for the DevOps teams, and maybe this will work out for you too. And although it might not be necessary to convince any one of you about the necessity of IT security, there's still two aspects that I'd like to emphasize before we start. First is that IT security has a real business impact, meaning IBM has conducted a study last year and where they tried to put monetary figure on the cost of data breaches, and they came up with a figure of more than $4 million. You might find different studies with a different focus, but all of the ones I found ended up with a 7-digit figure. That means that preventing and detecting cyber attacks is not just some annoying burden put onto you by your compliance department. It really provides some business value. Second is that we are facing a continuously evolving threat landscape, and we are facing it with an ever-increasing shortage of experts, and in particular, security experts. Now, let's take a brief look at what companies are typically doing in terms of IT security. You place a firewall in front of your infrastructure to protect you from the evil internet. Great. You have some antivirus software installed. You have role-based access controls in place. You even monitor failed and successful logins. Hopefully you have network segregation and such. You have tools installed that monitor your network traffic. And you can even install tools that monitor the execution of certain processes or binaries. And much, much more. But if you do all that in a disconnected, uncoordinated manner, you end up in hell. And that hell is called security tool sprawl, meaning many tools with different detection rules, different alerting mechanisms, giving you a multitude of alerts having to be resolved by a lot of people which are short on supply, as I mentioned. But what you actually need to not end up in hell is a central place. A central place to collect all your security relevant logs. A central place where you can correlate your different log files. A central place where you can detect those potential, most of the times they are potential, thankfully, potential attacks or breaches. One and only place to create security alerts and to perform the alert triage, meaning distinguishing false positives from real positives, where you can do the actual threat hunting, or to put it in a broader scope, where you have an overview of your whole security posture and at the same time can perform a detailed inspection of attacks. Or in other words, you need actionable insights. And that's what a security information and event management system is for. Let us look at the challenges we at German Edge Cloud faced when introducing such a SIEM system. We offer infrastructure services for our customers, public cloud services based on OpenStack, VMware, Kubernetes. We offer managed services like managed databases, web servers, managed Elasticsearch, of course, and a few more. And to do all that, we have our own infrastructure, like we have our own firewalls, switches, routers, storage appliance, you name it. And of course, we have DevOps teams. They need tools to work with. We have GitLab, Active Artifactory, and a lot of other tools, you name it. And of course, management needs to write emails. So we have an Exchange server and Active Directory, everything you need to run an office. And if you're only vaguely aware, familiar with any of these tools, you definitely know that all of these tools produce log files in different formats. They have different attack vectors for the evil guys. They are managed by different DevOps teams with different access rights. So now, mission impossible, let's have a beer and go home. Well, not quite. There's something that worked out for us, and maybe it will work out for you too, but before I show the actual setup, I need to spend a few words on the foundation that it's all built on, which is Elastic Cloud Enterprise. This is a managed cloud platform hosted and managed by German Edge Cloud at our premises in Germany, and a cloud platform where you can spawn elastic deployments, meaning consisting of Elasticsearch, Kibana, machine learning, you name it, in minutes, and they are easily maintainable. And one of the key features is that it provides auto-scaling, meaning you can start your deployment small, and as your data grows, the deployment will grow automatically. Now, what's the setup looking like? So first step is, when it's so simple to deploy new Elastic clusters, give each of the DevOps team their own deployment. It's not much of an issue for the DevOps teams anyway, because typically they have used Elastic before to analyze the log files. So they are just shipping the log files to a different cluster now. And those teams should be in charge because they know their systems and as such their log sources best. And all they have to do is deploy a log shipping agent on each of the hosts they are responsible for. Second step is give the security department their own deployment. And that deployment can read all the data from the other deployments via a built-in feature from Elastic that's called cross-cluster search. And now you have the possibility to do the management of the detection rules and the alerting centrally in only one deployment at one single place and still being valid for all the other deployments. Okay, so I said what's in it for security. They have their data now. I promise there's something in it for DevOps, yeah? So, sorry, couldn't go without cat content, yeah? There are some advantages for the DevOps teams as well. If you do your automation right, in our case, Ansible, so if you deploy new servers and bake the log shipping agent into the deployment of new servers, they automatically slip under the hood of those central detection rules without anybody having to do anything manually. And the DevOps teams have freedom, as they all have their own deployments. They can ship additional logs or metrics into their own deployment that are not security relevant, maybe only relevant for them. They can create their custom dashboards and alerts in Kibana without having to ask anybody for permission, because it has no side effects on other teams. And all those deployments scale independently, meaning we don't have one monster deployment with all data in it and trying to cope with it. We have almost a dozen different deployments of different sizes, and they all scale differently at different points in time. So, what's the status and what have we learned? Well, the project is not finished yet, and at the moment we have more than 400 hosts and network elements under control, and more than 120 security rules activated. Don't activate them all or you will drown in alerts. But what have we learned? Well, there were no actual security breaches because it seems nobody was successful. Believe me, I would love to stand up here telling you a story about how we caught some cyber criminal, James Bond style, but hey, this is real life, so real life is more Mr. Bean than James Bond, right? Sometimes it's so uneventful, we even feel the need to put the picture of a desert on the next slide. Yeah, really. Wait, Bahrain, there was something with Bahrain. Yes, security did find something. They observed that there were points in time when Bahrain was the #2 country in terms of outgoing traffic right after Germany. Now, isn't that suspicious? Well, it was to them, not so much to some others who were aware that one of our customers actually has other services running in AWS Middle East, Bahrain, and they do bulk data transfers back and forth. Okay, but there is something else aside from security that we have observed, which we didn't originally intend, but we have observed. And that is that the DevOps teams themselves are increasingly using their Elastic and Kibana for themselves. Newer version, more functionality, more data. Now they are looking more often into their Kibana and have better insights into their own systems and better understanding of their own systems. And even some simple machine learning rules that could be set up in 2 minutes revealed some relationships between events on one side and like maintenance work on one side affected the log files on the other side. Now, if you want to set up a SIEM solution for yourself, where do you start? The SIEM tool itself is only the beginning of a project. And I'll start with the bad news first. The bad news is planned for 1 or 2 years. I'll explain why. First, identify the relevant teams that should provide those log files, the systems you want to collect log files from. Align with your data privacy and compliance team about retentions, kind of data that are permitted to be stored and so on. If you ask security, they want data, all data and forever, and your compliance team typically says no. Do that first. Next, of course, if you want common security rules, you need to define a common data schema. If you're working with Elastic, that step is already given because Elastic provides such a schema, the so-called Elastic Common Schema. And if you work with Elastic, use the Elastic agent and fleet wherever possible because it does exactly that, meaning it transforms data into that Elastic Common Schema. And then take a deep dive with each of the DevOps teams, meaning talk with them, what are your relevant log sources? Are there predefined integrations shipped with Elastic, or do you have to write the transformation rules for transforming into the common data schema by yourself? Have the teams that are already operating this observed any previous attacks. That is a good learning because that helps you either activate or write the proper detection rules. Don't activate them all, I have to repeat myself. And yeah, test a few of them whether this gives the right results. You can do simulated attacks, there's malware test files and such. And define, of course, your alerting and reactions. So such a project, it's not the technical implementation, especially not the SIEM system itself, that will eat up your time. It's the alignment between teams, and as always in a company-wide project, the availability of resources for the project, because you cannot put your company business to a complete stop for the project. Now, before introducing a SIEM system, you want to select some. There's more than one, always. And the question is, which one should you choose? Okay, it should support the SIEM use case and the SIEM functionality. Okay, that's given. There's other aspects of the more non-functional kind that I'd like to highlight here. First, such a SIEM system should be scalable, meaning it should be able to start small, and if your data grows, you add more teams. If your company grows, it should also be able to cope with a lot more data. Of course, it should be under active maintenance, receive frequent updates, and so on for all the new, ever-evolving threats and so on. And don't underestimate the importance of a large community, because then you can exchange experiences, ask for recommendations, and as I tend to say, we should not be the only people on Earth encountering this particular problem. A good SIEM system should have well-defined interfaces and at best bring a lot of predefined integrations with them for industry-leading software. And keep in mind the learning curve for the teams. If the teams are familiar with working with a special kind of software, in our case mostly with Elastic, that might be a good point to start. Because after all, a SIEM system, recall the lack of qualified personnel, the SIEM system actually should relieve your teams from all the dull work. So to wrap it up, introducing a SIEM system is all about keeping the balance. Centralize what you have to, meaning the data schema and the threat detection, and decouple what you can, the log collection and the log management. But in order to be able to recombine what has been decoupled, you better do that on a common platform. That's it. Thank you very much. And you can find me after the talk.
Marcus, thank you so much. I appreciate your presentation today. Thank you so much. Hey, listen, real quick question for you. You know, when it comes to implementing SIEM, what is the biggest is there a technical challenge? What's the biggest technical challenge the audience should be aware of?
The case when you don't have a predefined integration, in our case OpenStack, then you're back to writing good old grok patterns that some of the guys maybe here are familiar with. But after all, it's picking the right detection rules from the whole lot. So it comes with over 700 predefined, and in the end you have to go through all of them and ask yourself, is this one of my systems?
Wonderful. Thank you. Now German Edge Cloud is a platinum sponsor this year.
It's round the corner, G09, and I will be answering your questions together with my beloved colleagues right after the talk.
Thank you. Thank you again, Marcus. Peace. Cheers.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
everyone. German Edge Cloud, thank you very much.